Jeanine Pirro, somehow, even after losing her own show on Fox News, still cannot do simple fact checks. Jeanine wants to know what Robert DeNiro has ever done for New York City. Well, let's back up. Jeanine Pirro and plenty of others from the MAGA world are all mad at Robert DeNiro for showing up at Trump's New York fraud trial. DeNiro was accompanied by former Capitol police officers who were present at the riot on January 6th, and they were there on behalf of the Biden campaign.
And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city. I don't know where he belongs, but he certainly doesn't belong here.
Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters. You're washed up. You're a little punk. You're a softy. You're a nobody. Your movies suck. You're trash. You're trash. You're done. You're done after this guy, guys. You're done.
Notably, according to the campaign, they weren't there to capitalize on Trump's legal troubles. They were there to take advantage of all of the press that's been camped outside of the courtroom for weeks now. As the New York fraud trial wraps up, the actor stood in front of the Trump-hungry cameras and said, quote, "If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted." He went on to say, quote, "We New Yorkers used to tolerate him when he was just another crappy real estate hustler masquerading as a big shot. I love this city. I don't want to destroy it. Donald Trump wants to destroy not only our city, but the country, and eventually he could destroy the world." So Jeanine Pirro took issue with this, and if I was a Trump supporter, I probably would too, but for other reasons. I could say that it felt like a political stunt casting. I could say that it was thirsty or opportunistic. I could say that the rhetoric was hyperbolic and unhinged. But Jeanine Pirro wants to know what Robert DeNiro has ever done for New York City, which is, I guess, a legitimate question, but it's also not a rhetorical one. It's a question that does have an answer, and that answer is just a Google search away.
You know, my question for Robert De Niro is, what have you done for New York City, Robert De Niro? What have you done? Is there a building with your name on it? Have you built skyscrapers? Has the skyline of New York changed because of all of your vision? No.
Just this week, Radio Inc. published an article announcing that Robert De Niro is set to receive the Service in America Leadership Award as a direct result of his charitable work and public service contributions. So specifically regarding New York City, the article said, quote, "De Niro's philanthropic endeavors include co-founding the Tribeca Festival in 2001 to aid in the economic and cultural revitalization of Lower Manhattan post 9/11. He is also on the board of the 9/11 Museum and Memorial." The Tribeca Festival is now a huge film festival in New York, and it's been ongoing for 23 years now. Also regarding 9/11, De Niro seems to have done more for the city post 9/11 than Trump ever did. Trump famously bragged about helping out first responders on the day, which he definitely did not. In fact, he was excited that his own skyscraper stood a little bit taller in the New York City skyline without those pesky twin towers there to emasculate him. And speaking of towers, Pirro went on to ask De Niro, quote, "Is there a building with your name on it? Have you built skyscrapers? Has the skyline of New York changed because of your vision?" First of all, why is that the only measure of success that she chooses to recognize? Not everyone wants or needs their name on a building. You know who needs that? Narcissists. You know who doesn't? Robert De Niro. And if he wanted to stick his name on a building in New York, he could do it. To be fair, it's not a skyscraper. To be fair, it's not in Manhattan, and a lot of New York elites don't really acknowledge the outer boroughs as much. But over in Astoria, Queens, right along the waterfront, stands Wildflower Studio, a $600 million film studio featuring 11 sound stages. The waterfront will remain accessible to the public once the studio opens, and the studio was built to function efficiently while ultimately supporting the local community. And who is the guy behind all of it? Robert De Niro. The sound studio is huge and imposing, and frankly, it's ugly and gray and everything that I personally hate about modern cities, but it was built for function over aesthetics. Even the locals seem not to mind it being there so much. There was concern about increased traffic in the area, but the studio says it will provide shuttles for crews coming in and out of the area. There's also underground parking, so that's good. The biggest criticism that I saw was that they didn't use union labor to build the studio, but it did use iron and elevator union workers, and the studio is expected to employ members of the film union upon opening later this year. Anyway, it may not be perfect, but it is functional, and from what anyone can tell, it was well intended. But more importantly, it's public knowledge. It's publicly available information that the studio is there and that Robert De Niro is behind it. Jeanine Pirro, who is both a New Yorker and a journalist, would certainly have heard about this at some point. But even if she somehow hadn't, she could have simply looked it all up before she posed a non-rhetorical question to her audience. But Pirro is a Fox News veteran. She knows how that audience works and she knows how they think. She also must know that they won't be bothered to look up what has Robert De Niro done for New York. She knows that even if they do, they won't care about what they find because they're already mad at him for being anti-Trump. And that is the difference between Trump supporters and everyone else. Even in this video right now, this could be taken as me talking up Robert De Niro or standing up for him as if he even needs me to do that. But really, I'm just saying what he's done. I don't care about Robert De Niro on such a visceral, fundamental level. I don't need to defend him. I'm just answering the question that Jeanine Pirro asked. If you ask what he's done, well, it's this. This is the answer. If you're going to make an argument against someone, at least make it a good one that doesn't lose all of its steam with just a simple Google search. But Jeanine Pirro herself is not known for being a well-balanced individual. Even on Fox News, she's considered to be next-level unhinged. She had her own show for a while, but she kept peddling the big lie even after the network had gotten into serious trouble for doing so. Fox producers said that she was quote-unquote nuts, and she ultimately lost her cushy show and got sat as one of 5 co-hosts on The Five. And to most, that wouldn't necessarily seem like a demotion. The Five is a very popular show for the network, but for Pirro, it was absolutely a step down. She now has to work 5 days a week rather than just 1. The show, by the way, airs live at 5 p.m. every day, which is a super annoying time slot for someone who only wanted to work Saturdays. Also, she doesn't get to call the shots on The Five as she would have been able to on her own show, and sharing the spotlight with her 4 co-hosts, she doesn't get to speak as much. But when she does speak, well, here we are. All right, that's it for me. If you got something out of this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my podcast, Modern Context. Thanks.